Turning to Washington now, where a key question in the coming days is the fate of President Biden's $500 billion infrastructure package. This week, 17 Republican senators, including Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy, joined Democrats in voting to begin debate on the infrastructure bill. It would mean billions of dollars for improvements to roads and bridges, ports, public transit, airports, and even sewage and water systems. Now the question is whether there's enough bipartisan support to advance the bill, and there's concern among some Republicans passing this package will pave the way for a second, much bigger package that they oppose, which would fund health care, child care, education, and a host of other issues. A key proponent of that plan, Senator Bernie Sanders, who chairs the Senate Budget Committee. Eric had the chance to talk with him one-on-one yesterday about the infrastructure debate.
Senator Sanders, were you surprised by Wednesday's vote? How many Republicans voted to at least move the infrastructure bill to the floor to start talking about?
No, I think there is an understanding in the Senate and in the country that we have a crumbling infrastructure. Our roads and bridges and water systems are in disrepair. We have talked about rebuilding that infrastructure for a long time. And I think the Senate understands the importance of doing that. And by the way, when we do that, we begin the process of creating a lot of good-paying jobs, which is also needed.
But it still has a long way to go. But I mean, the vote Wednesday, does prove President Biden said that he could get the two parties working together. Do you see common ground?
Well, I see common ground on that issue, Eric. But on the bill that I am working on, which deals with some of the long-term structural problems facing working families, unfortunately, I don't see any bipartisan support. I think we're going to have to do it alone within the Democratic caucus because, unfortunately, my Republican colleagues are not interested in asking the wealthiest people in this country who are doing phenomenally well, the large profitable corporations, to start paying their fair share of taxes. I think we have to do that. We can raise substantial sums of money in order to invest in the needs of working families.
And that's going to be a separate bill from the one that will be passed bipartisan. As you said, you have no bipartisan support. The price tag on the bill you're proposing, it's about half of what you originally proposed, is around $3.5 trillion right now. You haven't even got support from everybody in your own party, do you?
No, that's not true. We have, there will be a vote on early next week, I believe. We will have 50 votes plus the vice president voting to go forward. What we have to do then, which is part of the process, I got, 50 members of the Senate. Everyone has a different perspective, different needs, and we're going to have to bring those together. But we have the votes to go forward.
Okay, so moving forward, is there room for negotiation when you've got a couple of the holdouts like Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin who want the bill, they just don't want the price tag?
Well, there's going to be a lot of discussion about a lot of issues, but at the end of the day, I think what people in this country want, what members of the Democratic caucus want, is that at a time when the wealthiest people are doing phenomenally well, that maybe, just maybe, government starts representing the needs of the working class and the middle class. And we do that in a lot of ways. This, in my view, is one of the most comprehensive pieces of legislation since FDR in the 1930s and the Great Depression. What that does is we're going to cut childhood poverty in half. Many people in Louisiana and around the country have already started receiving those $300 child tax credit every single month. That's going to go a long way to help working families raise the kids. If you are older on Medicare, we intend to expand Medicare to cover dental care, hearing aids, eyeglasses, something that's long overdue. We're going to end the absurdity of the United States being the only major country on earth not to provide paid family and medical leave. We're going to invest very heavily in housing so that people don't have to pay 50% of their limited incomes on housing. We're going to make community colleges tuition free. So by and large, what we're trying to do here is address the long neglected needs of working class families, create millions of good paying jobs, and tell the people on top, you know what, government's got to work for all, not just a few.
But in the reality of the way politics works, can you guys get the bipartisan infrastructure bill done and passed before your August break and then move on to this, or you want to do both?
Well, I don't think you're going to see final passage of the bill that I am working on, the comprehensive bill for working families. what you will see is passage of a bill to proceed,
Right.
to allow us to discuss that. I think that we will probably pass the bill I am working on in September.
Okay, but and what do you think the odds are that you'll get the infrastructure bill, the one that is still being, it's not even, the text isn't even done on that yet. You think that'll be done and signed and voted on before the break?
Hey, Eric, if you know Washington, D.C., unless you are a very brave gambling person, you don't gamble on anything. Things change here every single day. So I don't want to speculate on that.
Well, I think Leader Schumer says that he wants to get it done, so we'll see. All right, thank you, Senator. We appreciate it very much. And it is kind of complicated because the move that was the vote on Wednesday moved it to the floor. There were 17 Republicans, a lot more than most people thought. Even
Right.
Senator McConnell voted for that. That's a long way from when they get into the actual negotiations. And then can they get at least 10 Republicans to sign on to an infrastructure bill that is very popular among voters, and that may be why so many more Republicans joined in, at least to advance it, but we're still a long way from having that done. And as we mentioned, Senator Cassidy, Bill Cassidy, was one of the Republicans who negotiated that bipartisan infrastructure package. We're scheduled to talk with him later on this morning. We'll have more of his comments in later editions of the Eyewitness News. Louisiana Senator John Kennedy has said that he'll study the latest infrastructure bill before committing to a vote. He refers to that second $3 trillion package as a tax and spend orgy, which he calls ludicrous and a disgrace. It is expensive, and that's going to be a lot more negotiating than this infrastructure bill.
Way above our pay grades, Eric.
Yep. All right. Let's get over to Peyton.